I think it's important that we talk about what was going on at Liquid. And I guess we can call this segment, Why Twistzz is the New Niko, but not like how you think. So, okay, oh, wow, what a fucking wicked YouTube title. That's gonna bang. We'll see. Anyway, obviously, we know that there was this incident, inner turmoil at Team Liquid, and Cadian got ousted. The Skullz pickup didn't work, and a lot of people were speculating about, well, what went wrong? Why couldn't it last? And it sort of came out in like drips and drabs that basically what we could sort of intuit was Cadian was at loggerheads with Twistzz and Naf in particular, who had formed a coalition. They didn't necessarily vibe with everything he did. And in the aftermath, not only did Skullz have to sort of go to Furia, and it didn't work out for him, Zeus also went as well, their coach. And Cadian obviously was out. You saw him on the desk at Blast, where he did an excellent job. Now, I'll also add, I'm totally honest and transparent. I did a segment, didn't I, on the last stream I did. And I said, you can call it, This Liquid Isn't Solid. Right? And I talked about how I was a bit unimpressed with JKS and Ultimate being added to the team. But they've already done better than the team I predicted to be the #1 team in the world, haven't they? So I know nothing about the game. I'm a fucking moron. Me and Maui Snake both need to get jobs in McDonald's, which, by the way, spoiler, I'd get fired for eating on the job. So that would just effectively render me unemployed and destitute. Things would get real bad, real dark, real quick, like fucking Basketball Diaries. So, I'm sad. I'm sad I got it wrong. But I never hide from it. He can't admit when he was wrong. Do it all the time, right? But here's the good news. That video's never going out on YouTube because I can now control the information. Orwellian, isn't it? But also, when I uploaded it, for some reason, not only was it demonetized, it was 18 plus. And I'm trying to think to myself, what the fuck did I say in that video to generate that? You've got to be logged in on an 18 plus account to watch it. Is it the sexy picture of JKS, that smile, that damn smile, in the thumbnail? I don't know. By the way, I'll show you the thumbnail. The thumbnail, because I'm never putting it out. But this thumbnail would have absolutely banged, actually. There it is. Right? This ain't it. It's just a picture of JKS in a Liquid thing. That smile, that damn smile from Clout Goblin. Blood Money Enjoyer, this is fine. Zoomer, this is not bussing for real, for real. Reddit pleb, why would you sign him? Now, that thumbnail would have brought out all the JK sexuals, but we're not gonna do that now. So, because there's no point. I'm not even gonna make any money on the video. I've lost money on that opinion. I've lost the most money on that opinion because it's 18 plus. You get no ad revenue on that. So I'm just not putting it out, guys. It happened. But anyway, they did pretty well. They've done well at Blast. This is another reason not to put it out. Because, like what happened with the fucking stew cells, they'll just turn up and they'll be like, what about today? What about today? And it's like, yeah, but it wasn't today then. And it's not today now. But they've done well. They have done well. I'll give them that. I'll actually just show you what they did since. They've started out, I don't want to say promisingly, but yeah, it's all right, actually. It's actually all right. Here we go. So, this is what they did at the Blast Premier Fall groups. They beat Virtus Pro. I don't think that's... maybe old Liquid probably... Well, they wouldn't have done that, would they? But, it's not like an amazing result. Virtus Pro got all kinds of problems right right now. They need a real shake-up. I don't know what it is. But they beat Na'Vi twice, which Na'Vi are ranked the #1 team in the world, even though they're not. I was right about the G2 predictions, though, so, it balances out. But I'll be honest, I didn't see this coming, nor do I want it to happen in a way. I'm kind of invested in their downfall a little bit. I love Twistzz, but as we'll get into, I don't know, this is bad. I don't approve with a lot of this stuff. But anyway, here we go. Let's just have a look. All right, okay, yeah, this is the... Right, okay. I'm not doing this for any reason. I'm definitely not a hater. I'm not a hater. I don't want anyone to say that I am a hater. Huh. Well, that is interesting. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, look, we don't need to dwell on that. Don't need to dwell on that at all. It's not even relevant. By the way, we're doing the whole ignore the numbers. It's all about the impact thing again. So there's no point in bringing it up. So I'm really not putting that video out. Even though Griff went to all the trouble to edit it, I've paid him to edit it. It has no chance of making me any money, but I can at least stand on the opinion. Nah, I'm good. I'll give that one a miss, actually. This Liquid ain't solid. Never needs to see the light of day, but it will be on the Twitch VOD for a few more weeks. You can go and check it out. Anyway, there was this interview, Zeus interview, right? So this is Zeus. And Zeus has come out and talked about his time in Liquid and what was going on. And there was some super interesting points in it. He said, this is a question about what was his role in putting the team together, because a lot of people had assumed Zeus had this input in creating the team because Skullz was in the team. Right? And people went, oh, that's Zeus. He's finessed Team Liquid into paying $600,000 to his mates back in Brazil. That's what happened. That was the Reddit narrative, right? We all remember the Reddit narrative, okay? We must remember the Reddit narrative because Reddit, which say I'm wrong all the time, on Reddit, they're never right. They just can't get it right ever on anything that ever happens in the scene. So everybody said that Zeus had finessed Liquid. Now, this is an interview with Zeus, so you can take it with a pinch of salt if you want, but he says some things about that, and he says, here, Joker Steve sent me a message asking if I was doing anything. He told me about reformulating the project, and at first it was something completely different. It would have been with OC, Breezy, and a full NA lineup. Now, let's start there, right? When a Liquid go in a fire, Joker Steve, that is mental. That is mental. That is we're gonna recycle those fucking players in an NA lineup. We're doing that again, are we? Oh, okay, right. So that is nightmare fuel. Like, stop. Hopefully this stream has proven that, like, the NA scene is a sick dog, and it's old yeller time, right? It's got to stop. It had its day. We had Boston. We're never gonna forget Boston in the metaphor that we took old yeller out for a walk and one last glorious day, but it is time. The vet's got to come round, and here's your favourite bone and your favourite toy. It's enough's enough. Like Breezy gets another chance, does he? Really? All right. But there was a possibility of making an alternative blockbuster roster that he had been working on. Katie and Twistzz, Jakindar and Naf instead of Skullz. It would have been K Serato. So confirmation. We all said, like, oh, Liquid have hit up K Serato, and because one of the things that's really annoyed me, again, another stupid Reddit narrative that gets talked about all the time, is somebody help K Serato. Why won't anyone help him at Furia? He's failing, and he's such a good player, and he chose that. He chose that. Guys, you know what I mean? It's like at the end of Train Spotting, when Renton steals the money, and Spud is awake, and Spud sees him leaving with the money, and Renton gestures like, do you want to come, and we'll split this? And Spud says, he shakes his head, but he doesn't notify the other guys. He's happy to stay in his squalor, in his misery, probably going to have to deal with those guys because he's good for, you chose the nightmare. You're Spud in Train Spotting K Serato. That reference, not going to play well with the Zoomers. And probably doesn't have a lot of export to Brazil either. They'll probably translate it into something. Grallo! Spud means potato! He's calling K Serato a potato. But anyway, K Serato could have been in Liquid. And listen, as we can now see, a Liquid with Katie and Twistzz, Jakindar, Naf and K Serato, it wouldn't work out because the Cadian problem would still be present. But the Skullz problem wouldn't have been present. Maybe it would have been all right. Maybe, who knows? But then if you just cut Cadian, you've still got an absolute blockbuster for Twistzz takes over at IGL. You bring somebody else in. It could have still been JKS, maybe. I don't fucking know. Whatever. Probably might want to consider the ultimate pickup. But whatever. It's fine. You know, K Serato chose to be on fucking Furia. And he's wasting his career. Like, he absolutely has. I would argue we're past that point. So, no, I don't want to hear that narrative ever again. He could have been on Liquid. Then, It was very important for Liquid to keep the NA spot, and in terms of availability, there weren't that many players on the market at the time that they could do that to play up to the level of the other 4 players, and that would get the team to sign, as we were on a deadline to make it happen or it would fall apart. So I had to come up with good alternatives to make it happen. When it came to defining the pieces, Twistzz, Cadian, and eventually Skullz, who made that decision? Was it your move? And he goes, no, it was a consensus. Remember, Zeus is the one who picked Skullz, right? That's what everybody says. He finessed Liquid, made him buy Skullz. Joker had basically put it all together, and I wouldn't have been able to have that sort of power, despite what everyone thinks. But it was a consensus, as everyone believed in the team's potential. There was a lot of talking, especially with Cadian and Twistzz. At the time, Twistzz was a very valuable and important piece for Liquid, and we were uncertain if he would be joining. With Cadian, it was more or less certain he would come. So for Twistzz, he was really keen to come to Liquid at the time. Then FaZe started having great results. Remember when FaZe just went on that tear at the start of CS2, winning everything, finals all the time, Twistzz was there, and people were like, why is Twistzz leaving? People were a bit confused as to why he would leave when they were on top, and obviously he's always had a great rapport with Liquid, it's an NA org, all of this stuff, but it was kind of a strange roster move that Twistzz chose to go and join the team, particularly from a team that was winning. Right? Like, it's not often roster moves happen in those circumstances unless it's an upgrade and the player is moving to a bigger, better team. But anyway, it says here explicitly, Twistzz really liked Skullz' game, and he said, if this kid comes, I'll join the team. So we sped up the discussions with him. Skullz was a guarantee we'd get Twistzz, me, Cadian, and that lineup would be locked in. So now, okay, Twistzz is picking the roster before he's even joined the roster. I want to know, all the Reddit guys who've been shitting on Zeus for picking up Skullz, saying Zeus doesn't know the game, doesn't know CS, is a moron, finessed Liquid. Well, it's your boy Twistzz now. It's your good-looking, tousled, floppy head. He's off the market. Sorry. It's your favourite player picked Skullz, and you've all said Skullz was shit, and anyone who thought he was good was a moron. So, are we going to do it, Reddit? Are we going to do it? And I want to put this in the file of players, when they get to pick players, why is it always like this? Why is it always this way? So, add that. By the way, I really cannot stress it enough. In esports, if you're a serious organization, you have to have a general manager, or it can be a coach, or it can be some hybridized version of those two roles. You must absolutely be the person picking the roster, never the players. As soon as the players start getting to do that, even if it's like an incentive to join or whatever chicanery is going on, you're on slippy ground, because the power then rests with the players. Anyway, it goes on, and this is the other part, and this is why the video, if you're watching it on YouTube, is going to be titled what it's titled. Zeus gets asked again, how was the leadership in the way of approaching the game managed? Because it does seem like there were many voices within the team, and that it wasn't possible to reach a compromise of how the team should play on the server. And he says, at the start of the team, I did everything I could to put Cadian as the leader and captain, so everyone would follow the calls and his ideology and really embrace his leadership. I think throughout these problems and these disagreements and incompatibilities, it started to change. There was an attempt to adapt to a style where there was more than one way for us to make rotations and play the game. Because as much as there was a leadership style, there was a bit of, let's say, difficulty in how this leadership was received by the team. This leadership was gradually lost halfway in. Now, halfway in wasn't long at all. Like, halfway in to how long it lasted. Like, I mean, how long was Cadian even on fucking Liquid? So he joined in December, and he was benched in June. So, like, halfway in is like they gave it a grand total of 3 months before mutiny occurred. Now, wager it was probably quicker than that. I certainly heard behind the scenes that there wasn't, like, there simply was no flex at all. There was no, like, any desire to work through the differences and disagreements fell by the wayside super quickly. So yeah, this leadership was lost halfway in, partially due to some of Cadian's own decisions, and partially due to some harsh resistance and opposition put up by some players. Then the big problem we had was how to restructure the leadership moving forward. Cadian would keep calling, but we would have our own style with everyone's ideas and inputs, and that's where I think this gap of incompatibility and disagreement grew, because we saw that the ideas for how we wanted to play, and even the roles we wanted to have in the game were very different. So here we go. It's happened again that what they've decided to do is not have a de facto leader, the strong one voice, traditional IGL caller, because for whatever reason, Naf and Twistzz didn't fuck with what Cadian was calling in game. And so they wanted to be like, oh, can we offer our input? A team run by committee cannot work. It just doesn't work. Not in practical terms on the server, it doesn't work. Off the server, it's good to have input, honesty, new ideas, everybody being open, sharing stuff. But on the server, there has to be one person that makes the calls, makes the judgment. And so what we ended up with here is players simply refusing to acquiesce to that. They didn't want to do it. And of course, it's NA players again. But we've already talked about that. So I'm not saying Cadian was a saint. As I've said, I know Cadian, like Cadian, so full transparency there. And I think he's been unfairly maligned, but he can make it difficult on himself. He's very forthright in his views. He's got a particular way of doing things. He's got very high expectations. And this is why I've always maintained he will never be an IGL that could like lead a team of stars. He could never be on like a G2 or a FaZe or, as we found out, a Liquid with two of NA's biggest ever players on there. They're not going to vibe with it. Can he be on a heroic and help develop people and bring them up? Absolutely. But we all saw what happened as soon as they become stars in their own right. Out comes the stabby, and that's that. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying Cadian is innocent in all of this, but that reads so bad to me that basically 3 months into the project, and that is being generous, that's probably at the outside, players were already going, yeah, we just don't fuck with this. We're not going to listen to the leader. We want to do things our own way. We want to have input. And I want you to think back to when people were critiquing Liquid and they were making all these elementary mistakes and people were going, there's no cohesion. They don't seem like they're communicating. Well, evidently, it wasn't, there was too little communication. It was that there was too much. We all make jokes about like NA teams and how he's lit, and everyone's shouting all at once and it's just like a fucking nightmare. Well, sounds like that was the shit here. Too many cooks, to quote Adult Swim. Cooks with a double O, not cooks with C-U-C-K-S. Because if the internet has told me anything, and if the MAGA movement has taught me anything, you can't actually have too many cooks. Libs owned. The follow-up question is about Cadian, and he said, some players in the team might not have believed in Cadian's system. This is an interview by Mira, by the way. He's been doing some great interviews lately. Well, like on Heroic, he was commanding the troops all the time, and the players fully trusted him. And there's also been talk of Cadian maybe not being able to adapt to the needs of the team and the way the players wanted to play. Is that really how it was? Zeus said it was more or less like this. Of course, it's never black and white. I think we got some good things from Cadian's system. The difference is he had always played with players who would follow him blindly. So Zeus, again, agreeing with what I've said. But that didn't have that much experience or skill at the beginning. And Liquid's players had already won a lot, which, yes, creates difficulty in how you receive certain things, but also brings a lot of experience. There are players who are capable of making their own decisions, and we would force some situations with this blind trust that later, when we reviewed the games and we saw the scores, we saw that not only was it not the best decision, but it wasn't how we wanted to play. So yes, there was very strong opposition from players, but there was also difficulty from Cadian to adapt to this new style. It wasn't just because of one person that it failed, it was a systemic thing where we couldn't make this incompatibility compatible, so to speak. So I'm going to just tell you this. If you sign me as a leader for a team and we get 3 months into a project and players on the team are saying, yo, we don't fuck with this leader, yo. We don't fuck with what he's saying. And I'm saying they're not even fucking listening to me and they're doing their own thing. My system will work over time. I'm proven. I'm tenured. That's why I'm here. If that player that's saying that is dog shit and not marketable, the IGL wins the argument every time. But this time it was Twistzz and Naf. So, doesn't matter who you are. It shades, funnily enough, of the Stanislaw incident, the Stan and Zeus incident back in the day. There's no rhyme or reason to these decisions, but generally speaking, the person that has the most clout, the most influence, which in esports is not even necessarily talent, it can just be marketability, they get their way. And you have to understand how difficult it is for an IGL. If I tell you to do something and you don't want to do it, there's no world in which I can make you do it to my specification. There's no world in which I can make you commit to my ideas and give it your best. And in fact, if you want to snake me out of the team, the best thing you can do is simply not play well. There's a phenomenon in football, which if you don't follow football, and by football for my American friends, I mean soccer, right? There's a phenomenon that it's called losing the dressing room. And it's simply when players are no longer motivated to play to their highest level for the manager, because if they do, the manager gets the credit for the wins, and therefore the manager keeps their job, and the players, so blinkered by their own egos and narcissism and dislike of the manager, they would rather potentially lose on trophies and not win because they don't get along with the manager and they'd rather have an easy life. And he's lost the dressing room. And don't get me wrong, some managers are absolute tyrants, monsters, and dog shit. Yeah, it's as a Raiders fan, trust me, I know. But it's got to be said that in sports in general, if players don't want to perform, they can simply have a manager ousted. And also, it's always in the back of their mind that they can simply get a move to another team. As long as they play reasonably well or they've got reputation, they can cruise on. They don't even have to turn up. Maybe they can even be benched, have an argument with the manager, be disrespectful, turn up late to training, get benched. And then it's like, well, I'm benched now. There's a dispute there. Or his agent goes out and puts everyone on high alert and he manufactures a move away from the club. Many such cases. So in esports, we just simply have whoever's got the clout basically gets to dictate the roster, whether or not the IGL keeps their job. And it's kind of whack, but it's been going on ever since, for as long as esports has been around. So it doesn't surprise me, and it's not likely to change. But I will say, if I was running an org today, I would stand by the IGL. I would empower the in-game leader in all but the most egregious of circumstances. Now, Liquid were playing like shit. There is no getting away from that. And Cadian would have been on borrowed time for those results, which, of course, were facilitated by the players not buying into the system and not performing well in the system. So it would probably behoove him at some point to change the system. But equally, if you know the system can work or you believe in the system, at what point do we start pointing the fingers at players? NA players, if they're good, won things, have reputations, they're sacred cows. We saw all that with the Stewie 2K comeback, where we all had to pretend he still had it after 2 years, when in fact he not only didn't have it, it's still an inexplicable anomaly that G2 were able to win a tournament with basically 2 Nexus on the roster, but go fucking figure. So when you're a popular player, particularly in NA, you just get away with it, so whatever. This to me makes it sound that with Twistzz installing himself as the IGL as well, this is like kind of crazy. But it is worth noting that it's worked so far. I mean, 2 wins over Na'Vi in best of 3s. It's only a foundation, but it's certainly something to be excited about if you're a Liquid fan, because that result with the KD and Skullz lineup would have been unthinkable. It just simply wouldn't have happened. So I'll just add the little bit about Skullz at the end. I think Skullz was criticised a lot internally. He was our scapegoat from the start. So from the start, it made things difficult for him. And he was the one who had the hardest job, right? He was our youngest player and had to play positions and learn some slightly different roles to be a more complete player. So I feel he didn't show his true potential. He's very good, and I believe that in Furia, communicating in his native language, and now with this experience, he's going to play better. I believe that if you ask him, he'll say that on Liquid, he only had a few moments where he showed that he knew what he was doing. In general, he suffered a lot there, emotionally and mentally, and even in terms of the system and role within the game, which I recognize we didn't put him in the best position to succeed. So that also super sucks that this young guy was getting absolutely fucking blasted by the team. And to be fair to Zeus, it sounds like even by the fucking coach. And also, I mean, already coming in, like, oh, we could have had Queserato instead of this bum. Like, it's super hard. Like, I mean, I never thought Skullz was the problem in the team. It was a collective failure if ever I've fucking seen one. But it's definitely worth pointing out as well that, well, why was that happening? What's going to change with players that were engaging in that type of behavior and scapegoating that young player and not being supportive when things start going wrong? Yeah, they've come out of the gates looking very well, even with, like, I don't know, everyone's gaslighting. They're all gaslighting on Reddit again about, like, JKS has got amazing impact. I've been impressed with Ultimate. I think he's had the start. Ultimate was in a position very similar to Skullz in the sense this is his first step up. This is him joining the big show. This is why I didn't believe in this roster. It could still have problems, by the way. It's early days yet. I mean, remember, we were all jerking off about how fucking Device is going to be a great IGL. Astralis are back. Look how good they're playing compared to what they were when it was Blame F. They're so back. They're so back. They're going to win trophies this year. They've done absolutely fuck all. So I don't how long that circle jerk gets to continue. I don't know. But it's early days, but I will say Ultimate seems to have at least jumped at the opportunity, and he's been one of the more impressive aspects. I expect big things from Twistzz and Naf. They are fantastic players. Yakindar's had a little bit of a resurgence, if we're kind of honest about it. He's still making really dumb decisions, but he's been in those Na'Vi games, especially back to playing hyper-aggressive, feast or famine Counter-Strike, which, you know, I like to see from him. Shows he's got a little bit of his confidence back, a little bit of his swagger back. But I think all the pressure in this lineup was on Ultimate, and I think he's dealt with it pretty well. So, I mean, listen, maybe it was just a scouting failure, but I'll say this. I'm still got one eye on this team to absolutely fucking implode, because you have to be super careful. Twistzz has gotten everything he wants since rejoining Liquid. He gets the players on the roster he wants at expense to the org to join, even if they don't last and they get cut and sold. He's obviously got the IGL he couldn't get along with out and took over that role himself for the first time in his career. He got rid of a coach I'm guessing he didn't vibe with by all accounts and brought in one of the most milquetoast coaches in the world, like just a fucking meek, mild-mannered dude in the form of Mytha, who honestly, I don't really, as I talked about in the video, no one is ever going to see. Mytha, to me, is like a bit of a fugazi coach. He was the coach of that North roster that perennially underachieved. So, I don't know. But that's fine, because he's not going to rock the boat with Twistzz and not challenge Twistzz. So, I guess everybody gets what they want, right? And what I'm watching is, essentially down this road, and it will only be worth it if there's success, they've kind of done what they did with Elige, which is they went all in with Elige. Elige was the secret king of the roster. He was the guy you had to keep happy on Liquid. He was the guy that could influence whether or not you were on the team. He was the guy that would be a little bit bitchy, a little bit pouty if things didn't go well. By the way, I'm not saying this out of pocket. This is stuff he himself has admitted, and Liquid were obviously all in with him until eventually they weren't, and now he's at Complexity and he's still playing world-class lights out, but now having to deal with the humility of, yeah, remember all those failures on Liquid? Well, welcome to the world of Complexity, mate, where you lose unlosable rounds with alarming frequency. On that note, while we're here, why not play the clip? It's completely unrelated, but it's too good not to.
Yes, we're getting it. Overtime, let's go. No, not yet. No. They're not losing this. They're not losing this, guys. They are not losing this one. I can swear that they are not losing this round. I will put my analyst career on them not losing this round. I will put my analyst career on them not losing this round. I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud.
Na'Vi jump on top of bomb. It is always heartbreak with Complexity.
They lost that! They lost that round! They lost that how? How do they even possibly lose it? I'm never gonna get a job again. I never am getting a job again. I never will work in this industry again.
And yeah, it's all over for Maui, but, you know, spare a thought for Elige. I bet he wishes he was still on fucking Liquid now, but you know, actions have consequences. So anyway, I've got to say that all of this is great if Liquid succeed, and the early signs are good. There's no getting away from that. My assessment of the last 2 Liquid rosters, just based on the sample size we have now, which isn't big, they were completely off. And so if this Liquid team is going to do very well, then nobody will complain. There'll be no friction. It won't matter. But if things don't start going well, it is reminiscent of the Niko sports situation over at Mouse Sports, right? Where you are anchored to another star player who is the IGL, the face, the brand, and calling the shots on the roster, calling the shots with coaches, calling the shots in game. What happens there when people start to lose, or people start to underperform, or people start to feel the pressure that's going to come with success? That is a potential powder keg. Now, I will also add, just at the end, I think Twistzz is a really good, level-headed kid. I got a lot of respect and a lot of time for him. I think he's handled numerous difficult situations in his career with grace and aplomb. But I will also add that's different when you are just a star player on a roster and not the guy calling all the shots. Sometimes when you give people authority, the authority is what sends them over the edge. And I will just say that Liquid would sort of take this risk of doing this with Twistzz when we all saw what happened with Yakindar, got to call the roster, got to call in game, went to absolute shit, has had about 5 periods in his career on Liquid where he should have absolutely been benched and just keeps on riding again. He can never complain about the luck and opportunities he's had in his career. But Liquid are doing it again. They're rolling the dice of this again. Did it with Elige, did it with Yakindar, doing it with Twistzz. And I think it reeks of bad management. No one will care if it succeeds. Everyone will go, "Oh, Richard, you're such a curmudgeon. Why would it go wrong? Why are you so negative all the time?" It's gone wrong a bunch of times. Not just with Liquid. It's definitely something to monitor. Because the honeymoon period, well, that's great. We all love a honeymoon, right? 10 years of marriage might be a lot less fun. So we are about to fucking find out for real whether this Liquid and indeed Twistzz has got what it takes to enjoy sustained success.